Hey everyone, it's Medina from the Clarinet Life, and today I want to talk about the Khachuturian Trio. These guys right here. Alright, so the Khachuturian Trio, in the United States, the international edition is very accessible. You can also get the Sikorski edition, and I personally prefer this edition over the international edition. What's great about international music company is that their music is very accessible and is extremely affordable, which helps classical musicians be able to play a lot of repertoire. However, regardless of the edition and publication that you're using, you need to make sure that it's accurate, right? No edition is created equally, right? I've found typos in the international edition. I've found typos in other editions of music. So it's not just international. I'm not saying that at all. I actually really like international edition because of the accessibility, and sometimes some music in the United States we can't even get unless we use international music company. So I just wanted to point out highlight this particular piece because I'm currently working on it, and yeah, I think it's important to take note of kind of the process that chamber musicians have to take when approaching a piece of music for the first time, or if you're reintroducing yourself to a piece of music. Okay, so here I have the International Music Company edition publication, and here's the Sikorski. So already you can see the first page, and this is very common. The first page just has the music. This one has kind of like a cover page. I'm just going to turn the page here so you can take a look. If you notice here, it's a little bit more wider space. The spacing is different compared to the international. So that's one thing I look for, is it's the legibility of it. I prefer larger spaces. Another thing that I consider is the type of paper being used. I don't like paper that is too slick. I don't like paper that tends to be a type of kind of like texture where if you put a marking and then erase it, then it doesn't come off. That's the worst. But here I'm just showing you kind of how it looks in the page. So another aspect that I look for when it comes to purchasing music is how legible it is, how easy it is to read, page turns for myself, but also for my colleagues, especially for the pianist. And the other thing that I look for is the consistency of instructions. So like tempo markings, crescendo, decrescendos, dynamics, things like rehearsal numbers and rehearsal letters, measure numbers. It's always easier to have a rehearsal when the rehearsal letters and measures are already on there, but sometimes they're not, and you'll have to put them in yourself. But those are some other aspects that I look for. Another thing you might want to consider looking for are cues. Cues can be really helpful also. Okay, so this is the Sikorski edition. This is the second movement of the Khachuturian Trio. And you see we have the più presto, which you see I have a marking here. I still personally think this should be half note and not quarter note equals 104. I'm sure someone could write a dissertation topic on it. I don't know, but that's my gut instincts, especially when I hear the recordings. But I just want to show you an example of page turns. So it's a brisk section, and then when we turn the page, I have a lot of notes going on. So this is an example of where the page turn is not ideal. Okay, so those are some things that you want to look for. Okay, so this is the third movement of the Khachuturian Trio, and as you can see, we have some tempo differences here. It's not a huge difference, but it's still a difference. You see the più mosso tempo and the moderato tempo. They are not the same in the international edition, which is right here in the Sikorski edition. Another thing that you've probably noticed, and I'll get a little closer here, is this section right here. Measure 6, measure 7. When we look at measure 7, followed by rehearsal 2 over here, we have this low E grace note. However,
I'm looking around here and I'm not seeing the same thing. Okay, so one thing that you notice is the rehearsal numbers are in the same spot. That's good. But if you look here, you're not seeing that grace note. Right? We have a grace note here in the Sikorski, not a grace note in the International. Okay, we do have the crescendo decrescendo there, but we don't have that grace note, that ornament there, which is also here in rehearsal 2, but not located in the International edition. Okay, we are looking at the third movement again of the Khachuturian, and I just wanted to point out measure 237. You see the repetitive G to F motion here. I'm going to turn to the International edition, and if you look, here's that same measure, and we don't have that same note pattern. We have G to F, but then we have E to F and G to F. So as you can see, there is that difference. Let me turn the camera. You can see the difference between here and the difference between here. So that's something else that you should take note with that. Another thing I want to share with you, rehearsal 49. This is 2 bars before the end. We have a poco rit. The Sikorski edition, rehearsal 49, that is not present. So that is something that you probably will decide on your own. But again, these are some small differences that can influence your performance and how you interpret the music.
All right, everybody. So these are just a few things that I look for when I'm purchasing music and when I'm preparing for a rehearsal. You might not have access to all the editions, but listening to recordings by respected artists can be a helpful tool. Not to necessarily copy them, but to kind of figure out what's the performance practice, what are the things that these artists are doing that are the same, what are some things that are interpretive and subjective. Yeah, so I hope this is helpful, and I hope you have an opportunity to listen to and perform the Khachuturian Trio in G minor for violin, clarinet, and piano, because it is a wonderful piece. Take care. Bye.